What's up, guys? Here's another training recap, and in fact, it is week 1 of my 6-week powerlifting prep. So officially 6 weeks out, and funny enough, this was supposed to be a deload week. I had mentioned last week I've been accumulating some fatigue with my base building, and I was going to do a little bit of a deload, but then was taking a look at some competitions coming up and decided to pull the trigger for this competition that's in 6 weeks because it is pretty convenient how close it is, and I didn't see any other competitions for a while that were going to be within the distance that I want to travel. So decided to pull the trigger, even though I probably would have preferred building a base, a little bit more base strength for about another 6 to 8 weeks and then prep for 6 to 8 weeks for a competition. But here we are, we're gonna make it work, and I think it's gonna go smoothly. Excited for the first day of the week to work up to singles to really see where my competition lifts are at after a little bit more general training and just strength base building. So I hadn't done any squats with knee sleeves or belt, so I threw on the knee sleeves and the belt for my low bar squat, worked up to this 540, and it moved pretty smooth, and I wanted to just cap it there, keep it a little bit conservative. From there, we moved into bench. Now, bench, I have been trained a little bit more specifically. I've been doing some singles with it, same competition style as I would, but I've also had other variations. But I've kept this competition variation in there, so it's not too rusty, and I didn't really have to show myself where I was at today, so I just worked up to 410, which is decent. My PR there is 420, so it's still a decent single, but it wasn't really anything at risk there. Then we moved on to deadlifts, and I haven't deadlifted anything less than 4 reps for about 11 weeks. So really had no clue where we'd be at here, and I haven't been using a belt with my deadlifts as well. So I was really stoked to work up to the 645 pounds here. I was quite surprised how well that went, especially on just like a normal commercial gym bar. Whereas usually when I'm hitting my really heavy singles lately, it's been on my deadlift bar at home. But I wanted to just see how it felt with my other squat and bench that day. I was pretty pleasantly surprised there. That being said, one thing I'm going to be committed to working on for the next 6 weeks is my hook grip strength. I really want to be able to pull hook grip in competition. I pulled hook grip with over 600 pounds before, but that's been quite a while, and since then I've really had to default to over-under grip at my last few competitions, and this time I'm locking in with hook grip, no pun intended. So we'll see how that feels over the next 6 weeks, but that's the goal, and you'll see how I'm laying that out and making sure that happens. So a little bit less work with the straps and more with the hook grip, and let's see if that adapts well enough in the next 6 weeks. As for my overall split, it's going to be similar to what I've been doing my big Super Total Forever program. I'm going to be switching that to more of a peaking protocol. So the split is similar, but the reps and sets are going to be quite a bit different, and some of the variations are going to be different. So a lot more specific, doing a lot more low bar squat, competition squats, a lot less front squat and high bar squats, but still some. And then for bench press, I'm right now just going to be doing competition bench. So no more Spoto bench press, no more banded bench press. Bench press went really well this week, so if that's any sign of what's to come over the next 6 weeks, I'm pretty stoked for it. And then for deadlifts, we're pretty much going to be dropping out some of the conventional deadlifts and just focusing on sumo deadlift as we lead up to this competition. I'm a little bummed because conventional deadlift's been going really well, and I do want to keep building it, but for now I got to put it on the back burner, but that's just for 6 weeks, and then I'll really push it after that, because while I do have a powerlifting competition on March 28th, after that, I'm going to be preparing for a weightlifting competition on May 2nd. So excited for that, but let's focus on this powerlifting prep for now. So after my kind of conservative singles day, I still have my training week to do after that. So day 1, technically my second day of the week here, we started off with some variations. And again, I'm going to be going a little bit more conservative on those and just really doing more of my primers to keep technique there, mobility, all of that sharp, but not overstress things like wrists, shoulders, and knees, because those tend to be the most at risk when doing more dynamic movements, especially as I start ramping up weights in the squat, bench, and my deadlift. So after that, moved into some high bar squats, and high bar squats went well this week. Super conservative after those heavy singles. I just wanted to assess where my fatigue was at, especially after I mentioned I was kind of contemplating whether or not I was going to do a deload this week anyway. But I still was able to chip away at these high bar squats and just taking a look at what I've done the previous few weeks and add a couple reps there, 365 for 4, 415 for 3, 425 for 2. Not too bad. These aren't personal records, but they are chipping away at where I've been at with my training block, so I'm happy with that. And that was essentially the end of my day. It was just some weightlifting. It was a bit of a short session, but I was cool with that because of the essentially mock meet I had the day before. But day 2 here, we started off with some competition bench press. I was able to work up to 405 and then hit this actually kind of an ugly 385 for 3, to be honest. I wanted a new 3 rep max, and so I went for 385, and it was just not as clean as I would like it to be. So going forward, the next time I hit that, I wanted to make sure it's really clean. Then I went for this 355, and I was going for a new 6 rep max, and was only able to hit 5 reps there. Kind of didn't look that hard at the end there, but just hit a wall there, and that's all. From there, we moved on to some pause sumo deadlifts, which originally my goal was to build these up over the next 6 weeks and get it to where I can do a pause single at 600 pounds. But after this week, I decided to change the thought process on it a little bit. Instead of building that up to 600 over the next 6 weeks and doing that for like a single pause rep, I'm gonna really focus on that being my hook rip day, where I'm really dialing in my technique and getting lots of singles in with hook rip. So that's gonna change a little bit. I'm not gonna prioritize whatever the weight is on the bar, but I'm gonna prioritize my technique feeling really solid. From there, that was a pretty short day. We just did pause deadlifts and competition bench. And I'm gonna still be trying to get some of my accessories in, biceps, hamstrings, stuff like that. It's just gonna be a little bit less of a priority because it allows me to drop a little bit of training volume with those and push with my other movements. All right, day 3, technically the 4th day of the week, but started this day off with bench press, and this was my best bench press session I've ever had. 365 for 2 as a nice warm up, moved on to that 385 for 2, and this was the big one. 405 for 2 today. That was actually a goal I wanted to hit in the next 4 or 5 weeks, and was super stoked for it because that's the first time I've ever done 405 for multiple reps before, and that's just an awesome feeling. Never thought I'd hit that milestone. Super awesome. And then after that, followed up with 365 for 5, which also was a goal of mine over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm already hitting that a little bit early. So I just want to not be Icarus, not get too close to the sun and burn, so to speak, but just manage fatigue so that I don't strain anything, get anything hurt or irritated. From there, we did some pause front squats. Like I said, I'm going to be keeping these in, but pretty light. They're just designed to keep my mobility for the front rack and my upright position from front squats so that I'm maintaining some good technique with my cleans, and I don't forget how to do a front squat from when I'm done with the competition. From there, moved on to some weighted pull-ups, and these have gone super well. In fact, decided to just keep working up, so I added a 45, 10, and 5 to the weighted belt and was able to do 3 pull-ups. So that's pretty cool. That means technically I'm 273 pounds because I weighed in at 213 that day. And that's pretty cool to be able to do 3 pull-ups, pretty smooth pull-ups there. So I'm just going to keep building those up, but no rush with those, just kind of seeing how they feel good. I like to keep some pulling in when I'm prepping for a competition because everything else is squat, bench, deadlift, and some rows and pull-ups are a great way for me to maintain bicep strength, rear delt strength, and all that good stuff. And it was Friday, back to some high bar squats, and first time working up to some singles on high bar squats. I haven't done that in a while as well, and collected a little bit of good volume on the way up. 6 rep block personal best at 355, a 4 rep block personal best at 405, and then just started hitting some singles. So 445 pounds here, moved pretty smoothly, and then threw on another 20 pounds for 465, and this went pretty decent. Decided to use my squat shoes for this, even though I've been preferring flats, and it went smoothly, so can't complain there. Afterwards, did a pretty challenging back off triple at 425, and this guy, I don't know what he was doing. He saw the phone and got real confused and just stood and looked around. It was kind of funny, but it is what it is. Finished this triple here, happy with that. Again, all of those 5 to 10 pounds above my block best or more, so I'm happy with that. From there, moved on to a new snatch variation that I have 0 practice with, so it went super odd and awkward. These are called panda pulls. Now, I've known about them for a while, I've just never implemented them, but I think they're going to be super crucial for my snatch and my technique on them. The panda pull essentially is a snatch high pull, but once the bar starts accelerating upward and you finished your triple extension, you then start pulling yourself downward. And I think that's going to be super helpful for me because I've been doing a lot of snatch high pulls, but the problem is you pull it up to about your collarbone and the bar will never be there with an actual snatch, right? So it's an unrealistic position that you're building technique with. So I'm going to be moving on from snatch high pulls for now and moving into these panda pulls and trying to get them a little bit smoother. After that, went up to some snatches. They didn't go that well. They were awkward, they were rushed, and I made 20-pound jumps. It is what it is. But that was it into that day, and then moved on to the last day of the week. So each session was a little bit shorter this week, but it was 6 sessions in a row with a lot of high intensity work. Went up to some deadlifts again and worked up to the 610 single, and that went pretty smoothly. And then I threw on 655. That did not go as smoothly. I didn't even post it here. I didn't quite break it off the ground. And then went back down to 595, did that for a double, was happy with that, and then did 540 for a triple. I don't know the last time I've done more than 535 for a triple, so I just wanted to chip away at that. But these aren't personal bests yet, but they are going to be building up over the next 6 weeks to some 2-rep maxes and 3-rep maxes, and then let's see what we can do at the competition. After that, moved on to some very quick competition bench. I had to get moving. So these are pretty short rests, and I still built up to 405 for 2 for a nice double at the top. A little bit harder than it was the day before, actually. Second hard bench day in a row. But the fact that I can hit that now consistently, I have a lot of confidence that any day of the week, I can walk in and hit 405 for 2. So that's pretty cool. Granted, I've only done it twice, but that's still pretty cool. And then after 405 for 2, I built up to 415 here single, and that moved pretty smoothly as well. That's only 5 pounds under my all-time best. I think my goal for the competition is to hit 424, which would be technically a 4-pound personal best, lifetime best, and it'd be technically a 6-pound competition best. My best competition lift is 418, so 424 seems like it's right there. And then after I hit that 415, I did a back off at 380. I think it says 480, 380 for 4, which was another smooth new 4-rep max. So bench press is going the best. No shocker there. The lift that I've been training more specifically over the last 11 weeks, I've been doing regular bench singles and volume work with that specific variation. Whereas with deadlifts, I've been doing belted deadlifts with straps mostly in the 4 to 6 rep range. And then with squats, it's been no belt, no knee sleeves, and high bar squats, front squats, and still mostly in the 2 to 6 rep range with occasional singles. So those are the 2 lifts starting off at a great spot for 6 weeks out, but you never have 100% confidence in them until you start getting the last couple weeks of competition. And even then, you still have your doubts that the week of. That's just I've done about, 15, let's see here. This will be my 17th powerlifting competition, and you still get a little bit nervous beforehand, and you still doubt yourself, but at the end of the day, you go in and you just trust the process, you trust the work that you put in, and you see what you can do. So I'm excited for the next 6 weeks. Really going to be honing in technique, especially on my low bar competition squat and my hook grip with the sumo deadlift, and excited to see where things go. So if you have any questions about my training, what I'm doing right now, my thought process, feel free to drop a question or comment below. I'd love to answer it and follow along. And if this has at all been interesting, hit that comment, subscribe, and help me push it with the algorithm, because I'm excited to see what we can do in the next 6 weeks, hoping for nice 1,700 plus powerlifting total. So let's see what we got.